welcome to Back Alley Chat, the fastest growing addiction recovery podcast in the world. In today's episode, we have the privilege of hanging out with Miranda Mouse, a remarkable and genuine woman who has fearlessly embarked on a unique journey of recovery. Despite some controversy surrounding her personal pathway to recovery, Miranda has captivated over 130,000 TikTok followers by being honest, vulnerable, and having unwavering determination. Becoming a widow due to her spouse overdosing while being a mom to 2 children, Miranda's story takes on even greater significance. She has embraced a recovery process that includes medication-assisted treatment and marijuana maintenance. Miranda's journey reminds us that recovery is a deeply personal and evolving experience. This episode of Back Alley Chat is made possible by our sponsor, Quick Intel. Quick Intel is not only a token, but a cutting-edge platform built on the Arbitrum blockchain with a mission to make crypto trading safer. Are you tired of falling victim to scams and feeling uncertain about which projects to trust in the vast crypto landscape? Quick Intel understands the challenges you face as a crypto trader. That's why Quick Intel has developed a comprehensive hub of advanced AI tools designed to empower you to do your own research effectively. With their proactive approach, Quick Intel helps you detect scams before they happen, equipping you to make well-informed investment decisions and fostering greater trust in the projects that you're interested in. Don't let scammers take advantage of you. Visit quickintel.io to discover how Quick Intel's suite of AI tools can provide you with the information and insights you need to do your own research and navigate the crypto space with confidence. I just want to thank Quick Intel for their sponsorship and enabling us to bring you an engaging and enlightening conversation with Miss Miranda. So Miranda, tell us a little bit about kind of where you come from. I know that you're in Michigan right now. Are you a Michigan native? Is that where you're from? Or tell us a little bit about young Miranda and what that was like.
Yeah, absolutely. I was born and raised in Warren, Michigan, which is just outside of Detroit. I mean, by 2 miles. So I did roam around in Detroit a lot growing up, but I am from Warren. I had a pretty normal childhood growing up. There was nothing that was super chaotic or traumatic in my life. My parents were drinkers and I just kind of saw that as normal. My mom was a bartender, so I was just kind of around that a lot growing up. And that is what really sparked my curiosity in that area. Middle school is really where things became difficult for me throughout elementary school. I mean, I was a straight A student, and then middle school came, and I don't know what it was or what happened. I think it was more so after the passing of my grandmother that things kind of started to fall apart in our lives in general, like financial help and stuff like that. So, and the economy was really bad too. And my dad had a company for insurance, and that plummeted. We ended up actually having to foreclose the home, yada yada.
Oh, wow.
Things started to become really rocky, and everybody kind of was a mess in my life. My parents' drinking had spiraled. My own use was beginning to spiral.
And how old were you at
where
this
I
point?
kind of got I was about 14 when things got super bad, but I was more 12, 13 when I began to experiment. And that was just snatching the smoke and running to the park, hiding in the bushes type of thing, every here and there. And it became my hobby. I wasn't in any sports growing up. I was never in dance, soccer, cheer. I didn't do anything. I never went to homecoming. I didn't get to go to prom. I was not involved at all. My parents were very secluded people, and they didn't want to get involved with the schools and stuff like that. It was just, they were very standoffish and very odd. So I had nothing to do but to get into trouble.
Right. And I bet that was pretty easy in Michigan. So you're 14, and what were you using? Was it just alcohol, weed? What was it exactly?
Yeah, that's exactly where it began, was with smoking and drinking. But the day I'll never forget was in 9th grade. I was 14, and a friend of mine came up to me in class just out of nowhere, and she held her hand out like this, and there was one Adderall sitting in the palm of her hand, and she said to me, "Do you want to get all your homework done?"
Wow.
And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm confused. She's like, take this pill, it'll help you, da, da, da. So I take it. And I remember being up for like 3 days. I didn't eat anything. I was so sick. My mom didn't know what was going on with me. I was like, oh, I just really don't feel good, like whatever. And when I tell you, it was like rewriting homework that didn't even need to be rewritten. It
Oh
was
my
crazy.
God.
I just had such a rush from it, such a thrill. I felt secure in myself and confident and happy and all, all the euphoria and the emotions and, everything that I had never felt before. And, somebody struggling with anxiety and depression and stuff like that, you get a taste of happiness and you're just, going to chase it in whatever way that you can find it. So
Especially
that's pretty much what I did.
Mental freedom, to just feel good and like I'm getting stuff done and my homework straight A's and I feel good and it makes you happy. Right. Kind of. I mean, in the beginning, and I know, and I want to get into the Adderall thing a little bit later, because that's something that you did publicly was basically taper off your Adderall, which I thought, and you were on 60 milligrams.
It was a lot. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was a lot. I'm going on my 3rd month, going into the 4th month soon of being fully off of it. I have switched to Vyvanse in the meantime, but I'm starting to taper off of that too. I had to just get away from the Adderall itself, but I wasn't fully mentally ready to like let go of that crutch almost entirely. So I made a switch to something else to kind of help me step down. And the changes are just enormous. I mean, I eat breakfast every morning. I eat lunch every day. I sleep way better. My agitation is just gone. I have way more patience. It's just, it's insane. But I still have that same like focus, I guess. And I feel like awake, I guess, in a way, but nothing in the way that Adderall would do to me. It was a lot. It was too much. And I'm just so happy that I made the decision to just kick it in the butt.
Yeah. And good for you. And good for you for, sharing that with a lot of people. Cause I think, obviously right now with the Adderall shortage and all that, a lot of people, is that always something that you were using though, Adderall, or what was like your main drug of choice?
It varied a lot throughout the years. Like, when I was a little bit younger, 14, 15, stuff like that, it was strictly just the drinking, smoking, Adderall. But once I turned 17, I had just actually been dumped by my first like real boyfriend in high school, and I was shattered and all this. And it was actually a few months after that I met Cody. Okay. And at the time, Xanax was a big thing. It was coming around. I was hearing a lot about Xanax, and I was curious, wanted to try, I wanted to see what the hype was about, and immediately fell in love with it. And that became my biggest problem for years. And then, it switched again. Every single time that I had got clean, I replaced it with something else and said, well, at least I'm not doing this. At least I'm not doing that. And I would pick up a different habit every single time. So it was always different what I was doing and what I was struggling with. I'm 28.
Oh, you're still young. 28 for me feels like yesterday. It was 5 years ago. I'm like, wow, I'm getting old for reals. So, and I actually went through the same thing. I started with, weed, and then I went to Coke and Xanax all the time. Then it was ecstasy. But then as soon as I started opiates, it was like a wrap basically for me, Yep. So you meet Cody. So that's your future. That's your significant other. You had a child with him, right? So tell me a little bit about that experience. Where were you towards the end of high school? What was your life looking like at that point?
Not well. I wasn't on track of graduating. I was still like 5-6 credits short or whatever. I knew I wasn't going to graduate. And actually what happened was, I had got kicked out of my high school. They sent me to the alternative school. And then I got kicked out of there because I showed up to school smelling like alcohol. And I went to treatment, and I told the school I went to give me another chance, and they did. And not too long after that, I messed it up again. I went to school completely out of it, on Xanax and drinking from the night before. I'd stayed up all night, went to school, and I was just a menace to society. I was cussing the teachers out. It was horrible. So they kicked me out there, and, things were horrible. I did end up getting my diploma. I think I was 23. I ended up going back and, getting it. So that was a big accomplishment. But yeah, so I met Cody, my best friend's house, and like literally the second I saw the kid, we just locked eyes and were like, yeah, like I could feel like I could hear his thoughts pretty much.
Wow.
And, we started to date from there. Just things seemed pretty normal little relationship, whatever, nothing crazy. But then I started to like see a side of him that was concerning and red flaggish. But
like what?
of of course, his drinking was out of control. He was always an alcoholic, and his drugs of choice varied as well, with mostly Xanax, opiates, alcohol was his usual cocktail, I guess. So he was, a liar, a cheater. He was always robbing people, stealing. I mean, he was just low at the bottom of the barrel, but I never saw any of the things that he was actually doing. I actually found out after he passed, years went on, and I was really naive to what he was doing. Like, I had no idea that he ever had an opiate problem back when we were younger. I didn't really find that out until a few months before he died. He hid a lot of secrets from me. I didn't know really who he actually was, and I don't think he knew either. He had a lot of different sides to him. He could be one person one day, another the next, either really, really bad, no in between. He did have his good side was good though. He did have a good heart. He was kind to strangers. I do believe he wanted better, but at the same time, he didn't fight for it. The end of, his life was just very messy. He kind of went off the rails to an extreme level when I got pregnant with our son.
How old were you then?
This was in 2020.
Okay, so you were pregnant in during COVID times.
Happened during COVID. It was horrible because he couldn't even go to the doctors with me or anything. It was really very depressing, and he started openly like using more hardcore drugs like crack and heroin. And I found out by actually going in his jean pocket, and I found a lottery ticket folded up in there, and there was powder in it. And I, at the time, thought he was using cocaine. Like I said, I had no idea what was actually going on. So I'm like, oh, look, I found this, thing of cocaine, and he just kept telling me that's not cocaine, that's not cocaine. For 2 weeks, he just held this lie of it's not. So I'm like, what is it? And he finally caved and told me what it was and what the problem was. And, I try to be strong and like be there for him. Like, you're brave for opening up and like telling me that, but like, what are we going to do about it?
Right.
And nothing was ever done about it.
Now, were you sober at this time? Were you sober personally or no? Okay. So what were you using?
No, I wasn't. I was using what I thought was Oxycontin.
And you think now it's probably pressed pills or something or what?
It was. I found that out through a drug test. It came positive for fentanyl. Oh, wow. And I had no idea. I was taking them for 3 years. And it's funny because I actually went to Cody like at the beginning of my addiction and opened up and was like, look, this is what's been going on, And he said the same thing to me, like, you're so brave for telling me this, like, I'm shocked, whatever. And I actually somehow got him tangled up in my connections. And then before you know it, we're doing it together. Right. And that's what really made his drug use worse, is because we didn't know we were doing fentanyl. So of course we needed more and more and more as time went on. And he started to catch on to the fact that these are not real oxys. Right. And I'm spending $30 on a pill when I could go get a $10 bag of dope. Right. So that's what he started to do. And that's where it really just, spiraled. And because I was still using them too, I did get sober when I had my son in August. I have been sober ever since. I'm almost 3 years sober.
Congratulations.
Thank you. He couldn't do it though. I don't know if it was the stress of the baby or moving or just life in general. I don't know if maybe he was just in too deep. I really think he was just in too deep and just didn't know what the hell was even going on anymore, or who he was, or what the hell up and down was. He was having delusions, hallucinating.
So what was it like being pregnant and still kind of using? Did you have a lot of issues with CPS? Because I know that's something that you talk about a lot on your TikTok. You always do like these funny things with the CPS workers and stuff. And
I love messing with them.
Yeah, it's great because I had this guest on a while ago, and he worked for DCF for a while, right? Doing like foster care stuff. And so I was like, bro, I want the deets, right? Like, tell us what's really going on. Because in my opinion, a lot of times these kids are taken out of the house wrongfully, right? And it's like, why are we doing that? Where are they going? You haven't even done a real investigation. I was personally in foster care, right? So I've experienced this in my life. And so what was it like though for you to need help, right? But be pregnant at the same time and basically scared maybe of telling people you might lose your kid, or what is that like? Because other people have dealt with it and I haven't. So maybe you can share.
It was probably the second most terrifying thing in my life, next to losing Cody, of course. The amount of guilt that comes along with it is sickening. And it's something that I have kind of put in a box and locked away and just never dealt with it, because it's so difficult to forgive yourself for something so wrong. And it's no blame to Cody, but like, I tried to tell him never get me pregnant while I'm, still using, like, let me get clean first, and it just happened.
Right.
And then COVID happened, and I was just so frightened. Like, there was like a wave of fear that washed over me when everything, and I was pregnant at the time, and, Cody's starting to use this, and like, I just kind of looking around me, and I didn't even know what the hell was going on anymore.
Wow.
I couldn't even believe what was actually happening to me. And that's also when the abuse had began, and he pretty much silenced me, pretty much just put a zipper on my lips and zipped it shut. I wasn't allowed to talk to friends and family or whatever, or even, if we were at the same place and I tried to go talk to somebody alone, he's right over my shoulder.
Wow.
He didn't want me telling anybody anything about what was going on with the using, the addiction, anything. He never supported me getting clean. He would justify it by saying things like, well, people are doing worse. Some people are smoking crack, and like comparing it and trying to make me feel better about it. And every single day I felt like shit. And I was just too afraid to ask for help, because I have a daughter as well who was 4 or 5 at the time.
Wow.
And I was so afraid of her being taken from me. And I'm like, she doesn't have anything to do with this. Like, Cody wasn't her blood father, but he was there when she was born, and from so on. Her blood father is non-existent, basically, so she doesn't have anybody besides me and like my mom and dad. So I just was so terrified of it, and I just kept like procrastinating it. And I knew it was going to come, and I knew things were going to blow up in my face, but I didn't care. I wanted to wait, because every day that I didn't have to deal with it was just a little bit better for me in a selfish way.
So did you end up getting drug tested, or do you get drug tested after you have the baby? Is that how that works? I don't even know how babies work.
They drug test everyone. Like, if you're going into labor, they have to drug test you just to see what's in your system. Because if you get an epidural, epidurals do have fentanyl in it.
Oh, I didn't even know that. So,
yeah,
so they drug test you, and then you come back for what?
I came back for fentanyl, just fentanyl.
And what did they say? What did they do?
They wanted to know why. They said, why did you test, like, what's up? Like, what are you using? What are you doing? Are you shooting? Are you smoking? They wanted to know all this shit. And me and Cody were just so stunned. We both just shot up out of our beds and were jaw dropped. What? We had no clue. Wow. And like I said, I think Cody eventually had an idea.
Because you thought it was oxy still. And then that's when you came back for the fentanyl. Wow, what a bad time to come back on a drug test for fentanyl. Jesus. And you think you're doing oxy the whole time. So
I was absolutely terrified. But like, my son, though, when he was born, he had very minimal withdrawal, because I did start to like lower the amount that I was doing. I was chopping my doses in half and using every other day towards the end of, the last 4 months or whatever. I tried, and he had very minimal withdrawal. He didn't have to go to the NICU. He didn't have to be tapered off of anything. I was so lucky and so blessed, and not a day will ever go by where I take him for granted. Every single time I look at him, I just feel like I owe him the world, and I want to give that to him by being a better person every day. And I feel so bad for him that, he's never going to know Cody and what kind of person he was. And he was a hard worker. He was a roofer, construction worker, and my son loves all those things. Yeah. And, I really wanted him to experience being a real father, because he wanted to be me as father. He was ready to sign our birth certificate. And I'm like, no, you're going to get hit with child support. Not doing that to you, buddy.
So was he still around when you gave birth to your son? He was there.
Cody never left.
That was in August, right? 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. He was around. I think like he missed like a doctor appointment and like couple things, but we lived together.
Right.
So we, had a house and everything. And like I said, the abuse had gotten to a point of no return, and I could not forgive him for just the level of disrespect that he had for me. It was getting just so low. He was spitting in my face, like dumping drinks on me while I'm driving, grabbing the steering wheel. He ripped a whole door off the hinges with his bare hands and threw it at, like, the list goes on. You know what I mean? I was literally just petrified all of the time.
Things continue? Like when you guys got home from the hospital, what did that look like? And how long was Cody around before he passed away?
3 months.
Wow.
He got 3 months, and none of it was spent with his son. He just was. I honestly feel like Cody, the Cody I knew, died a long time before his physical body died.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that the person standing before me was Cody. He was soulless. His eyes were black. He was thin.
Wow.
They were emotionless, just completely numb. He had nothing left to him, dirty. He just didn't care anymore. And it was so fucking sad to just watch him lay there, because like I was forced to go to treatment from CPS or whatever, and I could only do 9 days because my son ended up getting sick, and we just had to get the fuck out of there during COVID and all that. They were like, whatever, they completed me and then let me go home. Mm-hmm. And he was supposed to get the house together while I was gone. And while I was gone, he basically turned our house into a trap and had homeless people and all this shit and drugs and all that. So I came home, and CPS let me take the baby home with Cody. And the thing is that CPS never looked at Cody. They never drug tested him. They never made him go to treatment, but they had suspicions. They asked me, and I denied it because I felt so bad for like what I did during the pregnancy. He like guilt tripped me so much to make me feel bad, and that like, oh, he was boohoo sad. Like, you supported this,
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, well, since I did all these bad things to you, like, I'll be quiet to CPS for you, because he really couldn't miss work. His dad, that he didn't talk to for 7 years, had just re-entered our lives because of the baby, and gave Cody a second chance at his job. His dad owned a construction company, and he could not miss work for rehab. He couldn't tell his dad that he's like, I'm going to lose my job. We're going to lose the house. The house we were living in, his dad literally bought for us.
Wow.
So he couldn't mess that up. Everything was on the line. Mm-hmm. We were walking on a wire. Like, it was so scary all of the time.
Wow.
And it was, like I said, he wasn't there. He just didn't care. I would scream at him, and he'd just be sitting on the bed, like, with his arms up, just like, said, no emotion on his face. He was gone. And, 2 days before he passed, I told him, I'm like, you're going to be next. Like, this is inevitable. It's going to kill you. I was really, really hounding him about, like, I have this gut feeling that you're going to die. And he just didn't hear anything I was saying, in one ear, out the other. And, when it happened, I knew that I already knew what it was before it was. And we didn't speak much, the night before. And getting the phone call at 6 a.m. from his dad, I just knew.
Where was he when he passed away? Where was he?
He was in our house.
Oh, so, where were you?
I was at my parents' house. I had left. I made the decision to leave him, like, take the kids and leave 2 weeks before he died. And because I couldn't take no more. I called my mom, and I'm like, Mom, I'm ready. I got to get out of here. Like, it's so bad. It's so bad. Get me out of here. So she came, picked me and the kids up. We took all our stuff, and he pretty much just let me go. He barely put up a fight about it. He really didn't care. He was probably happy to see me go. Now he can get high without listening to me, bitch.
Of course.
So I leave, and we're together 2 days before he passed. He wanted me to go take him to pick up money and then go to his boys' liquor store. I'm like, I already know what this is. I'm not doing this. And, I really felt in my heart and in my gut and in my soul that this was a huge decision to make, because he did this a lot. He would like jump out of the car and I'm going to walk and so I knew what was about to happen. I pull up into this parking lot, actually a mile up the road from me. And he hops out and I drive away. And of course he's like, oh, come back for me, and I sat there and I was looking at him and I'm like, how many times have you done this? And do you want to keep doing this? Do you want to continue to enable? Like, you already made the move of leaving. So leave, I still had things at the house I needed to get. I'm like, he's not at the house. He would never let me take my stuff. He would always put up a fight with me. I could never go there to get my things, or he would have destroyed them. I mean, he was wild. He threw the baby rocker literally at the car one time when I was driving away. He would destroy everything. So I saw my opportunity to go get the rest of my valuables. I left. I went and got my stuff. I went home. I didn't hear from him much. I think the next day he begged me to come home. Like, oh, come home. I'm sorry. I'll do this, that, and the other for you. And I'm like, I can't. I'm sorry. I can't do this. And he was just kind of like, okay, whatever. And then the whole day went by. We didn't speak. And I asked him a question, something like, where is something? And he responded like, it's in the car. And that was the last thing he had ever said to me. And I was actually up that night till about 3 a.m. And no one called me. He died at midnight. No one called. No one told me until the next morning. Like, the police didn't call me. It was very strange because his friend was there when he passed. And
they were probably scared to tell you.
Yeah, they were. And they were even more scared to tell me that there was actually a female there who also overdosed with him because she had brought, the stuff by. And no one told me that for 3 months. I was left in the dark about that. And that pissed me off really bad. They're like, well, we didn't want to upset you. I'm like, well, you just made it 10 times worse by holding that information from me for 3 months. I need to know what happened to him.
Yeah.
But basically from what I know is that, this chick came by, they apparently had plans to rob her, and Cody's friend, his name was Manar. And apparently he completed the job. He said he walked away with $2,000 at the end of the day. And I'm like, so while your friend is overdosing, you snatched the money out of her purse, like the stuff fucked up. But I don't know. I guess he was asleep, woke up, and went to wake him up, and he wasn't waking up. And then he kind of put the pieces together, yada, yada. But when the EMTs came like 20 minutes later, they were able to Narcan and save this lady. And they took one look at Cody and was like, he's gone. And they didn't Narcan him or do anything to even try to save him. They put him in a body bag and carried him out to the fucking car.
Wow.
Like, his friends saw all of this happen. He was like, I was throwing out there, taking fucking pictures, like a whole crime scene. They wouldn't let me leave, all this stuff. It was just horrible. And I just couldn't stop thanking God that I wasn't there.
Right.
Thank God I was there for that. I'm so happy my children didn't have to see this.
Right.
I just,
So, and this is so much, so recent, really, more than I was even thinking before this interview. So basically, you experiment as a young person, you start doing different drugs, you meet Cody, you had a daughter, right? 5 years before, and you guys have been together that whole time. Your drug use starts getting worse. You're unknowingly using fentanyl. He starts knowingly using it. You're pregnant. You have your child. 3 months later, Cody passes. I'm sure this was like, now your life is completely different. That person that you thought that you wanted him to get better, right? You had moved to your parents' house, but I'm sure in your head you were hoping that, okay, one day something's going to happen and it's going to force him to get his shit together and be a family with me, right? And he never got that opportunity, right? So then when did you start your TikTok, right? Because it had to have been around this time, right?
It was actually a few months after he died is when I ever even first downloaded TikTok. I never had it beforehand. Like I said, my social media, my voice was very limited with him. I wasn't allowed to say much.
Right.
So after his passing, I felt this huge wave of freedom. Instead of that fear, it was freedom. I'm free to be me. I didn't know it's been 10 years since I have really been in a serious relationship with anybody else. I don't know who exactly I am, at this time. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know who I am without him. I don't know who to be without him, because he always kind of shaped and formed the person that I was going to be, whether he was going to piss me off that day and make me want to go make him jealous. And he knew how to work me. He was a mass manipulator. He was good at it too. He knew what he was doing.
And by the way, were you on Suboxone at this time, and are you still on maintenance? And what was that journey like? How did you decide to do that? And how did that come about, by the way?
Yeah, I've gone to therapy. I've gone to the same center since I was 14, because after I took that Adderall from a friend, I actually went and got them prescribed. I forgot to mention that. I started getting them prescribed at 14. So I just kind of was always with this doctor's office, and it was really upsetting, but I'm grateful for the center. But I didn't know that they actually added a MAT clinic to the behavioral center that it is. And they let me know a few months after Cody died about it. My doctor was like, oh, you know, you tested positive for this. You should get on the MAT program and the Suboxone. I'm like, you guys had a MAT program like this whole time? Like, damn, I could have tried to get Cody in there. I'm thinking about all these what ifs. And, you know, it sucks. But like, I've been there for the last 2.5 years. My doses have really remained the same. I've tapered off of Klonopin. I went from 2 milligrams to now 0.5.
Awesome.
And I'll be done with that in a couple months, and I won't have to worry about it. And then the Vyvanse taper will begin immediately after that, and so on. You know, so it's still going to be a few year journey to whatever. But I don't even know if I'm ready to want to taper off the Suboxone. It's been a lifesaver for me. I appreciate it. I really don't want to have to depend on something, but if it's going to give me what I need to be able to be a functioning parent, because I do have a lot of pain. I have nerve damage. I have problems. I have stomach issues, just all types of things. So there are things that I do need to, really be able to just function.
Right.
So it helps. Absolutely.
And you're being open about that online. How has how have people felt about it? Because I know people feel it's very controversial. I don't care what the fuck anybody does for their recovery. I really don't care. If you feel better about your life and you're a better human to the people around you, like that's a win for everybody, in my opinion, you know? But I know a lot of people do not think that way. They truly believe 12 steps and abstinence is the only way. And everyone knows I went through a 12-step program. I was court ordered to drug treatment for like a year, and that's what it was offered. But so what has that been like, and how has that affected you? Because I see you post all the time. I'm like, girl, I can never post that much. I get like nervous, and I don't even know why. But so how has that been?
I feel like people sometimes, I don't know, like in the beginning of posting recovery content, I never really have experienced a lot of hateful or negative comments when it comes to MAT or Suboxone or whatever. I mean, there are the trolls and the people that are just going to say something, but I used to be the type of person to let anyone's comments really, I let people get that reaction out of me, and I'd blow up and act tough and all this and that. That was a part of me that I needed to die, especially because it was a huge part of mine and Cody's relationship, of him getting that reaction and me exploding. And now you're the crazy one. So I have learned to keep my mouth shut when necessary and just delete comments, block accounts, and carry on with my day. Because I swear there's nothing that will get your blood boiling more than an internet argument. It's just too much. It's not worth it to me, and that's fine. Like if you want to respond, like voice your opinion, say it loud. That's fine. But me personally, I really don't want my page to be based on any type of drama or back and forth or disagreement. I don't want to give off that vibe that I'm going to constantly disagree with somebody, or I have something to say and I'm right. I don't want it to come across like that. I want it to come across, that everybody is free to have their own opinion here and be able to share that and appreciate one another's opinions and share perspectives and ideas. And that's really what it should be about. It not about the diversity of NA, this group, that group, whatever, And I steer clear from it.
Yeah. What do you do for your recovery? Because I'm assuming you don't go to 12-step meetings, right? But I know that a lot of the people that follow you, they have a similar recovery. Either they do marijuana maintenance, right? They smoke weed, and that's just their thing, but they're not doing hard drugs anymore, or they're on some kind of medication-assisted treatment. So, but, you've gone through a lot, Miranda. I mean, the abuse, right? The mental warfare that you went through, the death, having a little baby and another baby to take care of. And, so how have you dealt with that? Do you go to therapy, or what does that look like for you?
I do go to therapy. It's mandatory for, the MAT program. I used to go more frequently, but for me personally, I have found that talking about my past and talking about the things that may bother me doesn't work for me, and it more upsets and triggers me more than anything. I have learned to process a thought and an emotion and a feeling as it's happening and as it's coming to me. I used to react way too fast to my emotions and to a thought, especially intrusive thoughts, and really just let it work me up and, get the wheels turning and all that. So, when something like that comes across to my mind, I just have to stop and really, it takes a lot of my focus and a lot of my attention. So a lot of times I'm like, what, spaced out, because I'm trying to sort things out in my head. And your head is really a dangerous place to be. So you have to take care of your mind and make sure that it's a comfortable place for you to go and sit with your thoughts. If you're not comfortable with that, it's a problem.
It's eventually going to, if you
problem.
can't sit there with yourself alone, it's going to be eventually a problem, right? 100%. Right. What do you do for self-care though? Like, what do you do?
I love to take care of myself. I really do. I've learned to I love skincare. I like to go tanning. Yes. I like to go to the gym. I go, work out here and there. I stretch a lot because I'm always in pain. So I stretch a lot. I dance. I started dancing. I always had this thing, like, before I started TikTok, how I was so jealous of, like, these people that could go on TikTok and just kill these dances. And I'm like, man, I wish that was me, and I really wanted it. And I got on there and I started, the recovery thing. And then I started to post some dances, and there were people that were more mad about that than were mad about me being on that, So they're like,
they were hating on the dancing.
Page. Yeah.
Fucking people. Let people be happy.
Yeah, they're like, you're letting the numbers get to your head. You're changing up. And I'm like, I'm just being me. It never had anything to do with numbers or to me, it's not a popularity contest. I can't even believe that I even have a decent amount of followers myself. But the thing is like you said, I've been vulnerable. I have made myself look an ass with my dancing in the beginning because I was horrible. I didn't even know what I was doing. But it shows. People comment all the time like, wow, your dancing has really improved. Yeah. You've really gotten better. So people have been able to travel along with me with my journey and see every step of the way and see how much energy I have put into one thing that I really wanted and how much I've gotten better and improved and just worked on that. And they can see that and feel more connected to me and have a little bit of a closer relationship with me by posting, almost every step of the way.
Yeah.
I want people to see that, you can go through all of these things, but it doesn't have to define you or shape you or ruin you. And it does take time. I feel like I'm just a quarter of the way there, just the last 2.5 years. But
Miranda girl, let me tell you something. You are scratching the surface of your potential and your excellence. I can promise you that it will only continue to get better. What do you do? How do you survive? What do you do? How do you pay your bills? Do you make money on TikTok? Like, I know you sell you make merch a little bit and stuff like that, but I know you do those cards. I think you do them for free, which you're paying for postage and all sorts of stuff. So how does that work? What does that look like?
Yeah, technically, I make a couple dollars on TikTok. That's all based on your views, and that varies. I think the most TikToks ever paid me in a month was like $100 or something, right. But that's not usual. I was the most, so it's a couple bucks. But the money is more so made on live, and people tip you, or they'll make donations, to the cause type of thing. And any money that people have donated, I always use towards stamps and supplies and stuff like that. And I like to keep that a free thing because, AA and NA, they have their little tags and tokens and coins, but like MAT people they don't get a reward. They don't get a prize. So that's why I started to do the cards for people in recovery and put their name in the recovery date and write a little cute note, and ship it off to them. But it became a little bit bigger. So now I just send it to anybody that wants one. People in recovery are just your average Joe, Right. Anybody can
How many do you think you've made? I see your wall and your TikToks, and there looks like there's thousands of them. Like how many?
Oh yeah,
I've
gone through thousands. I've been doing it for like 2 years now. Wow. So I have boxes at home. I have kept every card that I could. I just have big boxes full of them. It's crazy. I've never wanted to throw one out. Just wanted to keep them all. I have scrapbooks even I made of some of them. It's insane. It's a big collection, definitely. So there's that. But I also clean with my sister. She has a cleaning business that she started, and I'm so proud of her for it. She worked, her talent to the ground. She went around to like laundromats, posting flyers that she had just typed up. And now her schedule, she can't even squeeze somebody in.
Wow.
Her agenda book is packed with, clients and this and that. So being able to work with my best friend, my sister, and having the flexibility and her understanding my position and my situation. And if I can't show up or this and that, she gets it. And it works for me perfectly. I couldn't have even gotten luckier with it. It's good money. And I'm also lucky though, because I do have pretty cheap bills. And
is it cheap up there in Michigan or what?
Housing.
Oh, okay,
well,
cool.
I'm in state housing. So I basically don't have rent.
That's awesome.
But I do pay utilities and so on. But the
two
rent
kids.
is just kind of, and I'm two kids.
Those are a bill.
And I have my family though too. My mom and dad I'm blessed to have them. They're, in their early 50s.
They're young.
They're happy. They're very healthy. I was just saying this to my sister earlier. I'm like, really just, because this lady's house we were cleaning, she was a little delusional, and I just felt so bad. And I'm like, the daughters, they're taking care of her. I'm like, we really take, mom and dad for granted sometimes. Like, they are perfectly healthy, and we don't have to take care of them.
Right.
We have so much more time. And, it just is something that we take for granted sometimes. But I'm very lucky to have them. They're so helpful. My mom is so active with my daughter, making sure she has play dates. And I put her in school at my parents' house in a nicer area. It's pretty much one of the nicest schools in the district because I'm way too close to Detroit. I'm 2 miles away from 8 Mile. Yeah. There's no way in hell. No way in hell. And, I'm in an apartment complex. So she would be in school with the kids in that apartment complex, hanging out with those kids. And those kids are bad. I see them running around. I'm like, no. I just want, a better life for her. And I'm so blessed that my, family is able to give that to her.
Yeah.
My mom gets up with her every day of the week and puts her on the bus.
Wow.
And it's such a blessing. And it's given me the time I need to grieve and process things and raise my son. My son's with me 24/7, but, she got my daughter for the most part. And it's given me a chance, to bond with him, connect with him, feel, everything I need to feel, and give my daughter a chance to do that as well. Because before she was in school out here, her and I were going at it a lot and arguing, and just, it wasn't a healthy relationship. I was so frustrated all of the time and just snapping, and it was bad for a minute. Yeah. And we just needed to separate. We'd been through so much together, and we disagreed on so much. She was so angry at me for so many things, and she needed to go and forgive me too. And
how old is she?
She's 8 now. She was 5 when he passed.
Wow.
I didn't take her to the funeral either because I just felt it was just, I don't know. It was a hard choice to make, but I felt like she wouldn't understand that he wasn't going to be able to get up and get in the car with us and go home. And I just felt like maybe that scene would have traumatized her as a little kid. That's not how I wanted her to remember him. I don't want that to be your last image of Cody in your mind. I didn't want that for her. So I left her with whatever good memories she had with him. And they remember most things. They have some good memories with, I say they, my niece, I mean as well. But, she never really talked about it. She never really cried about it. I feel like she was also very relieved that
it was a lot
the chaos was over.
Right.
And, we had to just kind of sit there and like watch him change and watch him transform into this monster.
I've
and it was
seen
so difficult
it's so sad.
to just watch someone, throw themselves away like that, and just to see how low they will go to try to hurt your feelings. And that's personal and that hurts, like, why would you want to do that? He would always like argue with her or try to like, no, that's not right. Just like, it was so petty. And I'm like, I would want to rip my hair out. I'm like, you're arguing with a 4-year-old dude, it's just too much. So I feel she's very relieved. And I don't know. She's always kind of had this thing with men, though, that she's just a little startled by them, and just, I don't know. I haven't wanted to date. I haven't been interested.
I was going to ask you that too. If you, we're going to be dating anytime soon. Because I think about like, wow, I wonder if you even ever envisioned this being your life, right? Like having the freedom that you have and feeling good and having these friends around the world probably. And a question about that, was that like a quick thing? Like, did you get on TikTok and kind of like go viral fast, or like, how did that happen? And how did it kind of change Did you feel more supported? Did you feel like you got some confidence from it or what?
Yeah, a little bit. It started with a different account. I was just kind of posting whatever at the beginning because I didn't know what TikTok was about. And then I started to kind of see some like point of view videos, like a skit, you know, and that gave me the idea to do like all the different type of people you'll meet in rehab.
I've seen those.
And
those
that
are
was
good.
the first one I posted, and it got like 1,000 likes or something. That was the most I'd ever seen. I'd only had like, 50 like, typically on my things. And so I was like, ooh, this is cool. But then the same day my account was permanently banned for like too many violations or whatever. I was like, no, I was melting down. But then I had a gut feeling. I was like, I can't explain this. Like, I swear to God, I've always had a sixth sense. Always. Like I said, when Cody was about to die, I freaking knew it. I just know things sometimes, but I had a feeling. I was like, no, this is a sign. Like, you're going to make a new account. You're going to repost that video and things are going to go, well on this new account. Cause I just reached like 5,000 followers too. And I was so proud of that.
Right.
So I started over, and that's the account that I'm on now. I reposted the video and it didn't even slightly get the attention it had gotten the other account, but I just continued to post recovery content from there. And I put myself in that niche or whatever you call that, that category. And that's where I placed myself. And that's when people started to be a little bit drawn in and interested and welcome type of thing. And some of these people had been on, TikTok for years, 25,000 followers say, and I was just smoking them, going, flying. I don't even know why, but maybe it's something about me. I'm not sure. Maybe it's something about my story or just how open I am.
Yeah,
but
I think you're very open, like I said. Yeah.
And I just, whatever kind of comes to my mind, if I have an idea and I think it's funny, I'm going to post it. And there have been many times where my videos have gone viral, 2 million views, whatever. But that's not how it started, though. It wasn't like I posted something and I just kind of blew up. It was a gradual thing. And I realized that it was all about the consistency and the work that I was putting in. That's why I have to post 3 to 5 times a day and go live.
Wow.
Live is where a lot of the followers come from. I'll gain at least 300 to 500 followers a live session every 2 hours. So if I just go live for 2 hours, I'm pretty much just gaining all these followers, But it's really just about having that community and having the audience that is connected to you for a reason. So sometimes with my lives and drawing, it can mix people up and people kind of get intertwined for the wrong reasons. And that's okay. You can leave that, whatever. Right. It's okay.
What do you have any advice for, because you've been so open, transparent, like, in a fearless way about your story and the things that you've been through. And I bet being able to get some of that off of your chest has just felt good, that you've told people and like they love you anyway. And you've gone on from there.
Absolutely.
Do you have any advice for people who may be like, feeling that guilt or, are just scared to be themselves, like what you've learned through this experience of yours?
Yeah, I mean, my number one advice always is try your best not to care what other people think about you, for one. And the other number one thing is to always make sure that you're putting you before anyone, before your children, before your spouse, whoever, whatever it is. You've got to put yourself first. And like I said, you have to be able to be comfortable to sit with those thoughts. And even if it gets uncomfortable, you got to power through it without having an episode or this or that. It just takes a lot of self-discipline. You have to trust yourself. You've got to believe in yourself. You have to love yourself. And like I said, that comes along with not caring what people think, because when you begin to love yourself and I do like this, or, ooh, I never knew I would like that. People may look at, wait, like when I started to dance, you're switching up or this or that. Like, no, I'm finding myself right now. Right. That's what I'm doing. And I didn't care that people were mad about it. I could have been like, ooh, I can't do that. I got to stay in this recovery box because people don't like that. No, I'm going to stand outside of it and do it and continue to do that. So you've got to be strong, power through, and just know the end of the day, things could be a lot worse.
Do you ever feel like people look up to you, or do you ever feel any kind of like, I remember one time you posted a TikTok where you were like drinking, right? And there were people who got kind of upset about it because they're like, you're supposed to be in recovery and you're drinking, da da da. And so, because your way of recovery is different, right, than what people think of as recovery naturally, right? Because for decades and decades, we've always been told recovery means one thing. So, how do you take responsibility for that on TikTok or online in general, or what people?
Well, of course. I mean, it's for given what I represent and everything, yeah, I understand, the concern and stuff with people like that. But again, it comes along with me doing me and not caring what other people think. Because at the end of the day, I know I'm okay, and other people might not think that. But that's where trust comes in, and that connection and that bond. And if you don't feel that with me, that's okay. Just mind your business, keep going. But that's not something that I intend on putting out all of the time. That's not something
I know that. But I was just thinking, like,
but
people look up to you, I think.
That, like, when people hear recovery, they just assume recovery equals sober. And that's not true.
What does it mean to you?
Recovery is the pathway to sobriety. That recovery is where you're fixing yourself. You're learning about yourself. You're doing all this damage control and repair on your body or whatever it may be. And that maintenance is recovery. You're maintaining yourself until you taper down, whatever. And then boom, that's where you hit your sobriety. So I don't claim I'm sober. I say I'm clean or I'm in recovery, because to me, that's what it means. And people get the terms mixed up all the time, and that's okay. But it's all about educating people, or telling them at least your perspective, what it means to you and how you feel about it. And just know that I don't ever mean to, offend anybody or put it this way or that way. That's just the way that I feel about it, Yeah,
and you're always yourself, which is, I think, what everyone loves so much about you.
Some people envy that.
I bet. Hey, I envy it a little bit. I mean, I'm out there a lot, but I couldn't do 5 to 6 TikToks a day. I don't even have
lately it's been a lot less, because I have been working a lot more. I'm trying to get a little bit more connected with the business, with my sister, trying to help her out a lot more. So I have been slacking a little bit, but
do you think
I've gotten the podcast with you. I have been invited to an event at the end of July to, go on stage and speak. And I just feel so grateful to have another opportunity to tell my story, another platform to share that on. And I couldn't be more thankful for the experience. I've never done anything like this before. And it was so nerve-wracking, but
you did great,
and I feel good. Thank you.
Do you think you would have ever gotten to this point without the MAP program, or do you think it was like an important part of your recovery process?
Absolutely. I really don't know if I would have made it, because before my doctor had recommended the program to me, there was like a 2-3 month gap or whatever in between everything. And there were times where I really just would sit there and bite my nails and think, like, should I go? I could just go get, like, I was really at the edge of,
I can't imagine,
no return. And, I would still, take Suboxone if I could find it or whatever. But I was so sick and tired of the streets and people and deals and this and that. And I didn't want to do it anymore. So to have a healthy, legal way to do that was extremely important. It's regulated. You got to check in. It has kept me in a straight line. And my sister was going to a different center beforehand, and she was getting like 60 Xanax bars, all this Adderall, all this crazy stuff.
Damn.
And she would never have to go to therapy. She would just go in once a month and walk out with the scripts. Like, it was insane. And I told her, like, you've got to get away from it. Come with me. Right. Take my hand. And she finally caved, and she did. She went to the center that I'm at. She gave up all of her pills. And she was like, my pills, because it was money for her or whatever it was. She was super anal about it. And she gave all of it up and switched medications and goes every month and does the therapy.
Awesome.
And I have seen her life change dramatically. She stopped doing cocaine. She stopped drinking. She cut certain people out of her life, all within like a 6-month time period.
Wow.
I recommended a lot of friends to that center, and every single one of them quit drinking.
Wow. That's amazing. That is so great.
I felt so at peace knowing, like, these people I love and care about are okay now. Like, they're, they don't have to battle with themselves anymore, and it's I do it a lot because I know I couldn't help Cody. I couldn't help him. I couldn't save him. There's nothing that I could do. But if I could help or save anybody else, it means the world to me,
For sure. So Miranda, where can we find you online? What's your TikTok and all your stuff, and the Cody's OD prevention too? Tell us all the deets.
Well, my TikTok is at @mossrecovery_official. That's also my Instagram. So those two are the same. I really am not on Facebook. I have one, but I don't ever use it,
Right.
like ever.
Same.
It's just my first and last name, or just whatever. And then I started that hashtag, and it has 1.4 million views. And I'm mind blown.
Wow.
Like, what the heck?
Can people donate to you on your TikTok? Like when you're live, is that like what you suggest if they wanted to get involved with whatever you're doing?
Yeah. I mean, I don't like to ask for donations. I like to keep things free. It's more of just like, you come across your average, your generous person every now and again that just pops up, and I just kind of let it happen by fate.
Yeah.
Because people do come in and they have gifted, galaxies or cash at me $20 or whatever it is, and okay,
Right?
I feel like I don't
Take
have
it.
to
Not going to give it back.
You know what I
Right.
mean? I don't like to ask for donations because at the end of the day, there's not really anything that like I'm putting it towards. I'm not like donating to a charity
Right.
or anything like that. It's just, it's very minimal amount of money to cover the supplies that I'm using
For the cards and stuff like that.
So, it's not too dire.
Right. I hear you. Yet. I mean, hopefully one day, you're able, do you have any plans to, what does the future look like for you before we go? Maybe you can look back on this in a couple years, see if it happens.
Yeah, maybe.
That's what I do.
I'm really at a point where I kind of don't know. I'm 50-50. A big part of me really wants to go to school and, get into, the therapy world or psychology or something like that, and, help people. And the other part of me kind of wants to be more involved with, like rehab centers and stuff like that. So like there's this big, I'm not too sure.
It's a tough
and
one.
I feel like I have a little bit of time to, think about it. And I'm just kind of taking life as it comes, at me. Like with working with my sister, that just kind of popped up out of nowhere. She made a business and cool, let's roll with it.
Right.
So I just kind of plan on doing that. I do hope to better connect with her and maybe even like kind of co-own this business one day and really, expand it and make something better out of it. That's what I want to do. And I want to be more involved. I want to start volunteering and just being there and getting my voice out. Like I said, this event coming up is huge for me. It could, open so many more doors as well as the podcast. And I'm just really excited to, see what happens.
Well, we're excited for you. Keep being yourself, keep being genuine and just the awesome person that you are. Cause obviously that's what's working for you. So don't go fucking changing it anytime soon.
I don't plan on it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure, Miranda. And everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Back Alley Chat. And thank you so much for our sponsor, Quick Intel. We love you guys so much. Like us on Instagram, go on YouTube, go on anywhere that you get your wonderful podcasts. And I love you guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye.